firstly, I just wanted to say thank you all so much for coming this evening. Some of you have been to see the show already, you came to the private view, and it's wonderful to see so many faces. So, I'm Peter's daughter, and I and my brother's here tonight, and my mum, and I'm really here just to say how proud I am of my dad, who's created the most phenomenal body of work, really amazing. And this has been, did you say 8 months? Roughly 8 months of absolute blood, sweat and tears from not just you but the whole team, which has really gone into making this incredible show. At 86, you know, as you say in the blog, you really are speeding up. I don't know how you produce so much work and have so much energy. It's crazy. But the truth is, as I have the privilege of working here for this mad and incredible family business with my husband, my dad, my mum, I do know that for some of these pieces, it's been a lot longer than 8 months of trial and error. And because, you know, for instance, these pieces, I've seen different variations of them knocking around the studio for several years now, you know, in different forms. So I suppose what I'm trying to say is that some of the colours, the shapes, the patterns, they're thoughts and notions that you've been grappling with for several years now, and only for this show, you know, feel that they're ready to exhibit and show to the public and have in the gallery. And you know, these are stunning pieces. So maybe we start off by talking about these, and we've put together a slideshow of a few images and videos to illustrate how he's created the work and some of the ideas that have gone in, your influences and inspiration. Why don't we start by talking about the waves and the wave platters?
I hope you can all hear me. I have to apologise if I sort of pack up in the middle, because I'm just getting over a horrible cold and other things. But, you know, years march by and, you know, we begin to creak. Despite what Sophie said about energy, quite frankly, I think I'm losing it one way or another. But anyway, I want to reiterate her welcome, the fact that she's welcomed you, and it is really, really it's wonderful to see you all, but especially those who I know have been to the show before. I mean, that's real commitment, you know, and that makes me feel very, that's very heartwarming. I'd also like to, Sophie mentioned the team who helped me make these. I'd also like to thank them. I've worked very closely with Louis, who's somewhere in the background, and Bruce, who's over there, and this show would not have happened without them. And apart from that, I'd like to thank the rest of the team. I suppose I might call them Anne's team, who run the gallery and who put the show together and displayed it so beautifully. And actually, between the studio team and the gallery team and my family, you know, Anne, who kind of is the slave driver. Let's talk about waves. I mean, you know, we might as well start there. It's been a theme that I've worked on over time. What happens with a lot of my work is that these things recur. Themes come back or ideas come back. I do love the idea of revisiting. A customer came in with a piece that she bought down in Rotherhithe, 30 years ago, and she loved it and said, "Could you make it again?" So, you know, a lot of head scratching. How on earth did we make that even? But, no, I'm kidding. But that's not really what I want to do. I like to revisit an idea, but I want it to change. I've moved on. We've moved on. Our techniques and our skills and our ways of doing things have moved on. So, yes, I did make it. It was called Glacier. And they looked kind of glacial to me at that point. I don't know, 50 years ago, whenever it was. And it was an iridized piece. And at that time I was commuting through Kent. We lived in Kent. At the time I was asked to remake this piece. And one day I was coming through and it was all you've probably heard this before, but it was snowy and there was snow on the trees, so there were black outlines of trees with snow on every bough and hedgerows and fences and so on and so forth. I was speeding through on the train and I thought, yes, I really would like to go back to making black and white works. And funnily enough, here we are, so I did that. I made her piece and it led to a lovely series called Glacier that we've been making in various versions. And now, another 10, 15, I don't know how many years have gone by. And we're back in black and white, a black and white phase. And these black and white meanders and eddies, Anne doesn't like me talking about this, but they started in the bath, in my bath. We have Venetian blinds in our bathroom, and if I lie in the bath, I can watch the clouds go by, and many of you will know I'm very partial to clouds. There are some sort of red versions there, and we had some blue ones, but we seem to have sold those, and they've gone, which is good. So I watched the plane. It was lovely in lockdown, no planes going by, but anyway, I watched the planes go by and I like the smoke trails and so on and so forth. But the best thing is looking at the water, seeing the reflection of Venetian blind, which starts off as stripes, but if I move my knees, that agitates the water. It disrupts the pattern. And we get what are called eddies, or in my view, and that's what we did up there. Well, to be truthful, we started off looking at agates, but then having looked at agates, I got really taken with the black and white versions that was the result of looking at my bath water. Could we flick through? So all sorts of inspirations. It might be one of the ladies or the girls, the women who works in our cold shop, she has a T-shirt, which that's not actually the T-shirt, but it looks like that. So I've got a photograph of that. But this, I think, is Bruce, probably, right? You and Lou. Oh, this was a really big one, even bigger than the one that's up there. So that took quite a lot of time and there's several people to make that. So if you just play that again, so it starts off looking quite simple with a white trail on black, on a black ground. Then, I don't know if you saw, it got shunted around. We call that, what do we call that? Smushing! Yeah, this is a great word. SCHMOMMO. It is in the dictionary, smushing. Anyway, we smush, and then we swing it, and we spin it, and it expands, and we blow it, of course. So anyway, I had this idea about the waves, wanting to try to make a different kind of wave. There are two versions of early waves made with Elliot Walker, and they were inspired, they were for an exhibition called Inspired, or Inspired By, or something, and we each had to pick something. I remember somebody in that exhibition chose kitchen utensils, somebody else did variations on a teapot. I chose Hokusai's image of the Great Wave. It had been shown at the British Museum not long before that, and also Bart, my son, who's a filmmaker, had taken me to Japan, and it's an absolutely iconic image, the Great Wave. Wherever you went, it was there. So I had it very firmly fixed in my mind, and I thought, I wonder if we could make that in glass. And the thing that I was really grappling with, or the thing I wanted to achieve, apart from the color and the movement, was this sense of a frozen moment. And I thought glass, look, frozen moments exist in photography, absolutely. You just capture somebody leaping through a window or through a circle of fire or whatever. Or calligraphy, that has it, doesn't it? Japanese calligraphy, that gestural thing. And I wanted to try, and I thought glass is the ideal medium to capture that, because glass freezes. That's what it does. We take it up to a very high temperature to work it, and we melt it, and it's molten, and as it cools, it hits a point where it solidifies. So it's like water turning into ice, basically. So I think we got it. I was very pleased with that series. We sold quite a lot of them. And forgive me for saying this, but we need to do that in order to keep this whole operation going. But this time I thought I'd really like to do a different kind of wave. I'd like to do a wave that's much wider, broader, like a barrel wave, for instance. This might be considered a barrel wave. And I did a lot of testing, and many of these are test pieces, or even, look, the whole thing, and Sophie referred to it when she talked about ideas that have been kicking about for years. It's the evolution, for me it's evolutionary. The ideas evolve. And I've tried to create a bit of a progression. Actually, I set them up chronologically originally, but it looked so boring and so dull that we just mixed them up. But the clear ones came first, then these, then those, and finally these ones that you see over here, and some of them are two-part waves, and who knows what the next iteration will be. And I've done some as platters, and I'm very pleased with both those. Both those and those have a wave connotation, if you like, but they're very different in character, and they're very, and I'm pleased with both attempts. Yeah. Well, let's go. Okay. Yeah. Is that the beginning of the thing? Okay. Well, this is trying. Oh yeah. I'm creating the foam, the crest on the top of, or helping to anyway. There's some really hard working glassmakers at this end of the pole. I'm just playing around. I'm just fiddling about. Now, having said that, when that torch was on, that was damn hot, and I'm not used to it.
This is this looks like a new sort of...
Yeah, this is a variation that we came up with. The idea of some vessels with cresting waves as decoration almost. So these illustrations, which Sophie found, they're brilliant because they illustrate what the inspiration was for those pieces. If you go on to the next one, this is Glencoe. valley. I don't know how many of you know Glencoe. That's called Bacaya, and I'm going to names drop here because the last slide was, or one of the later slides was Hockney. He and I climbed that together in the 60s, early, when was that? We were still at school, mid-50s. Long time ago, before most of you were born. Well, he climbed it. I was scared, but I had a Jewish mother who said, "You're not going climbing. Under no circumstance are you to climb." So I crawled up a stream with water coming in through my sleeves and going out through my trouser legs because I was too scared, not of climbing, but of my mother. So anyway, so the variation was to introduce water into the heather, and one of my most favorite things ever was taking the train, because I used to have a property in Scotland in a place called Mora on the west coast, overlooking the Isle of Skye and the Sound of Sleat. And on one or two occasions, I took the overnight train, and you would wake up as you were going, or I would wake up as I was going across Rannoch Moor. And that is the most beautiful sight. The mists lying over the moor and the water glinting in the heather as it does. And so, yeah, that series should have been called Rannoch Moor. I don't know, what did we call it? Meander Green and Blue, I think it was. Anyway, Rannoch Moor it should have been. Yeah.
So I think when
okay, show that. So that image, I don't know quite where that is, but I've been to Antelope Canyon in Arizona, which was another high point, and these kind of striations and that kind of layering is what really, and the quality of the agates is what led to that was another source of inspiration. That's all I'm trying to say. So
well, I think if anyone has any questions, I've got a few questions.
Yeah.
But if anyone else wants to chip in and say anything.
Oh, that's a really good question.
Can you repeat it?
Yes. So the question, can you, so do I have an idea or is it a pleasant surprise? Well, I have a low boredom threshold. So if it's not a surprise, it's not always pleasant, I have to say. But if it's not a surprise, it's not very interesting. I have an idea. Sometimes it's on a bit of paper, sometimes it's an image cut out. Someone kindly handed me a cutout of a wave from the Sweets Times. I happened to have bought the Times that day. I don't do it very often, so we both had that thought immediately. And that could be the inspiration, you know. Could be that, an image like that. Look, to my way of thinking, look, it's difficult because we have to make work that we hope people will like at the end of the day in order to keep this whole exercise running, because believe it or not, it's very expensive. You know, I know glass was this throwaway thing, you know, if it breaks, you know, just get another one. For centuries it's been like that, but it isn't like that anymore. Even sand is becoming scarce, believe it or not. They say, because I forget what it is they use high quality sand for. I wish I could remember, but they're using a lot of it for whatever it is. So there's a little bit left over for glass making. If you use common sand, it's very green and it'll be like window glass, you know, greenish tinted. But if you want clear glass, you have to have very good, and we do have good glass. You have to have very good sand, but all the materials are really expensive, and they all use a lot of energy, and energy, as you know, is also very expensive at the moment. And we are conscious of the energy we use, and we try and recycle the glass, and we recuperate our furnace, and we do what we can at the moment in the circumstance. I mean, I'm very interested, as I've said before, in a hydrogen furnace, but that probably won't happen till I'm long gone, sadly. But that would be an ideal. If you could just have water and make hydrogen, I mean, I did see a film about a house in Denmark that is totally run on hydrogen. Every element in it works on hydrogen. They don't, they make their own electricity that way and so on. That may happen eventually. But to go back to your question, that's the exciting thing. That's why I like experimenting, because I want surprises. That's the thing that keeps us going, isn't it? Gets the adrenaline working.
I've got a question. What would be your dream project if funding and time and facilities, resources were no?
Well, the awful thing is, for the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, it's looked as though I would have the funding for my dream project, or a project I've dreamt up. Nothing to do, well, not really very much to do with blowing. It would be a totally new body of work, and I don't want to talk about what it would look like, but it would be very different from anything you've seen from me in the past. And I've been on the verge of getting that funding, literally on the verge of it, now about 3 times. And I've been kiboshed, or the project has been kiboshed for one reason or another, people getting fired. It was a charity that was providing, a foundation that was providing the funding. And the last, anyway, it's like crying over spilt milk. I mean, as things stand, I've been in limbo for years over this, and I'm still in limbo. And maybe it'll happen, or maybe I will just simply make a start in a small way on some element of the project. But that who knows? That might be my swan song. Yeah. That I will repeat. Did I ever have a moment that I thought was the most wonderful, most successful, most brilliant, most exciting moment of my career? And that's a great question too, thank you. There have been many, and of course every time I go to the kiln and I open it, I'm hoping for a moment like that. But, and I have lots of mini ones. There have been some major ones. I'll try and talk briefly about a couple of them. During the 80s, there were triennial symposia in the Czech Republic in a place called Nový Bor. It was a city devoted to glassmaking. And actually I was born in Prague, so it felt a little bit like going home. My parents were Viennese, but my dad was working in Prague. It happened for a glass factory at the time, although he was in admin, I suspect. Nový Bor was a bit like the Olympics. It was the glass Olympics. People came from all over the world, Russia, America, you name it, Mexico, everywhere, Greece. People that were and I was one of the British delegates, or what do you call sportsmen? Anyway, I was one of the British representatives. And I, not only once, 3 times, for 3 of these triennials. So in 1982, you can buy my book, for heaven's sake. Um, it's all in there. I made a. At that time, we were given interpreters. We weren't told. Of course, we weren't told. We didn't know that these people were spies, and they were watching every word we made. So that was about the time of the Velvet Revolution, and I made a thing called prakashka, which is barriers. And then the next time I went, I built on that, and I made a very, very large pyramid. And pyramids has been a recurring theme with me. In 1982, or 72 rather, I had and this is one of those moments, I was a ceramist in those days, and I had a big show with my then wife, Bart's mother, Tessa Scheinman. We had a big show, and a really wonderful Canadian painter, William Kurelik. We had a big show at the Commonwealth Art Gallery. It was a fabulous space, and it had lighting that changed during the course of the day. You know, if it got dark, windows would open, or the blinds would open, and, you know, it was a fabulous space. And the director thought I was going to make him a few pots. Anyway, I didn't. As it turned out, I made a series of sculptures called Please Keep Off the Grass, which was the beginning of a kind of ecological strain to quite a lot of my work. That's another recurring theme. So I was early on the ecological scene. Anyway, so there was pyramids in that show that were meant to denote deterrent paving. So it was a bowling green. The piece was a bowling green with lovely, soft, flocked green balls. They were ceramic. That was the ceramic. Inside the flopping was the ceramic bowls. And then there were these pyramids that you obviously couldn't walk on and you couldn't bowl on. Anyway, it was a series of pieces like that. And then I made, you know, this pyramid keeps coming back. I made a 2.5 meter high pyramid in Novi Bor. And I would have got a gold medal, you know, had they been handing out medals. People were blown away. And as some of you will know, I've attempted pyramids on a much smaller scale here. Hot worked or cast. How did I get onto pyramid? Oh, anyway, all right, we'll leave that. Novi Bor, yes, I was saying that. So that was when that was up, that was a fantastic moment. Another moment was we did a huge commission for a cruise liner called Legend of the Seas. And we installed this 15 meter wide, 10 meter high glass and metal sculpture, which, and we worked through the night. We were told the lights were going to go off, or the scaffolding was going to come down at 5 a.m. in the morning. And my colleague Simon Moss at that time and I and somebody else, we were threading the fiberglass lighting for the piece. And at midnight, the lights went out, and we were up there, stuck up there on the scaffolding. So all we had was a pencil torch, and we had to finish the job because the scaffolding was coming down. So we worked till, I don't know, 3 or 4 o'clock doing this. And then they went off to sleep, and I was left there. And we hadn't really seen this object. We'd only made models of it. We hadn't really seen it. So when the scaffolding came down, there I was on my own in this vast atrium, huge atrium, I think 10 stories high, looking up at my piece. I mean, that was a magical moment. That was an incredible moment. And the Legend of the Seas set off to America soon after that. We were working through Atlantic gales. We had the side of the ship open, and I was dreadful. Anyway, it took off. And it ran into one of those gales. And the ship was flooded. The portholes burst, the carpets were ruined. But my piece, our piece, swayed magnificently. I was told it was a attached to the lift shaft, it survived, and it's. But there have been other moments like that, these very high points. Listen, I'm going on a
Good
bit.
time to-
I think I'm getting signals.
Good time to end.
Yeah. Are there any other
Yeah,
questions?
just one more question.
I think there is.
One of these moments, you get a pleasant surprise, or you have the most amazing piece of work when you open the kiln door. Do you take it home, or do you sell it? And if you sell it, is it a very great pain for you to do so?
So does it hurt to part with the work, with my baby? Yes, it does sometimes. Yeah. Anne and I have downsized, so we live in a tiny house with no cupboard space, a certain amount of shelf space, which is taken up with things like a piece of Bruce's and a Dale Chihuly we happen to have, and Colin Reed, and one or two early pieces of mine. No, now that we can barely afford to keep this thing afloat, we have to sell the work. So,
I think
no.
that's a good point to end on. And on that note,
I'm kidding. It's not high pressure sales.
Not high pressure, but if anyone, we've got Anne, my mum, we've got Emma, Abby, all on hand. So if anyone sees something that they can't live without, or want to discuss in more detail with any of us or Peter, come and see us. And please help yourself to. We bought lots of wonderful food from Borough Market. Help yourselves.
I would like to say that one of the things I'm really proud of is my family. I'm sure you all feel like that about your families, but I do have an exceptional family. I have the most wonderful kids. Here's an example. There's another one. He was a big surprise here tonight because he's just flown in from Spain. But his kids, grandchildren, her extraordinary little daughter, my youngest son's 6-month-old, and hopefully there'll be more. And so I'm really, and I want. One other thing I'd like to say is I really regard the guys, the people, the ladies, when I say guys, I mean everybody, who work here as part of an extended family, our extended family. And actually, I love them all. And without exception, I really do. And I'm really, really grateful to them and grateful for their support and my family's support and support in particular. Thank you.